Welcome back. This is Chapter 11, Video number 2, and we're picking up with the discussion of the fifth guru in Sikhism, Arjan Dev. Now, Arjan Dev is living in the late 16th century. He's going to, as I said, introduce a couple new concepts into Sikhism. One, he's going to bring in an idea of having a militant order within Sikhism, meaning a group within Sikhism that are responsible for physical defense. Guards, basically, bodyguards is what they start out as. And this is a departure because, remember, Sikhism initially taught pacifism. You don't fight back, you don't defend yourself, you live peacefully. Arjan Dev is introducing the idea that that's not always the case. And even though this is going to fairly significantly transform the face of Sikhism, it starts out, or at least the stories say that it starts out as a very kind of personal, intimate sort of choice, where Arjan Dev has been captured by Muslims from the north who are going to put him to death eventually, and his son is going to be the next guru, is going to take over. And when he's talking to his son, he knows he's been captured, he knows his fate. He tells his son, surround yourself with able-bodied people who will defend you. Create a group of people who will protect you so that the same thing doesn't happen to you. So this initially starts out as a father trying to protect his child, and it's going to have a long-term consequence for Sikhism in terms of how it plays out throughout the centuries. So alright, Arjan Dev introduces this idea of a militant group within Sikhism. He also introduces the idea of holy scriptures, of collecting the writings that are important to Sikhism into one written collection, referred to as the Adi Granth. And this book consists of things that Guru Nanak said, it consists of things from Muslim and Hindu mystics that are part of Sikhism, and so forth, a collection of scriptures. And it starts during this time. We jump ahead to the 10th Guru, whose name is Gobind Singh. He lives in the 17th century, late 17th century, and he actually takes both of these new introductions that Arjan Dev brought to the picture and amplifies them, makes them much more central to Sikhism. So, he takes this idea of the militant group within Sikhism and he formalizes it into what initially starts out as a class, a subclass within Sikhism called the Singh, which just means the lions. These are men who are like lions and who will protect the people who need protection, defend the defenseless. I mean, that really is their mandate. They're not just intended to be protectors of Sikhism or to be bodyguards anymore, but they're actually intended to be a military group that will defend the defenseless, that will help people in need, of physical protection. And this becomes highly ritualized, highly structured subgroup within Sikhism, and to let you in on what we'll be talking about in just a moment here, it becomes essentially the mainstream form of Sikhism over the course of the next several hundred years. So that today, the mainstream form of Sikhism is this idea of the Singh, of the lions, and the marks that are seen as part of Sikhism today, which we'll talk about in a moment, or you may remember if you've read the chapter already. They were initially associated with this idea of the lion, of the soldier, the warrior within Sikhism. The other important change that Gobind Singh makes is that he takes that Adi Granth, that book of scriptures that we talked about a moment ago, and he says, this is going to be the new leader of the community. There's not going to be an 11th guru, or if there is, the 11th guru is this book. It's not going to be a human being anymore. So whatever kinds of questions you would have brought to the leader, you take to the book. If you need guidance, you look to the book. If you need instruction, you look to the book, and so forth. And that's been the standard ever since. There were 10 gurus over a course of a little over 100 years, and there haven't been any more. Now there is the Adi Granth, which is renamed, by the way, Guru Granth Sahib, which is basically titling it as if it were the leader of the community, which it is in an important way. I mean, literally, in some sense, it leads the community through its teachings. Why do this? Well, there's a few reasons, but the thing that I want you to understand is that by doing this, he is fixing Sikhism. He is locking it into position so that it's not going to continue to change in the same way that it's been changing over these last 100 years. Remember, it went from a pacifist religion to a religion with a warrior class over the course of a century. In order to prevent more of that kind of change happening, even though he brought some of that change himself, he's setting it in stone in a way by having the book be in charge instead of people who can reinterpret and make new alterations to the tradition. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about these things, these lions within Sikhism. First of all, I want to give you a sense that having a warrior class within this religion, it really is a pretty effective sort of development. What I mean by that is that Sikhism is in a unique position to offer spiritual sort of comforts to warriors, because it has the unusual, unique in terms of the things we've talked about in this class, the unique position of believing in only one God and in teaching a belief in reincarnation. So why does that matter for soldiers? Well, the belief in one God always promotes a sort of single-mindedness, a sort of focus, an obstinacy, if you will, towards others. It locks you into your position. If you believe in one God, that ultimately already assumes that everybody else's gods are false. And so the belief in one God is a very focusing sort of belief. And we see this. The religions that believe in only one God, particularly Christianity and Islam, tend to be the ones who are most militant in their thinking. This is not always the case, but it's certainly something that we can trace a real lineage of throughout history. The idea of reincarnation, which doesn't exist in any of the monotheisms, the ones that we've dealt with in this course, it can be extremely comforting to a soldier to know that when you die, it doesn't really change anything. You don't go away, you're just reborn back into the same system. And so dying in order to protect somebody is not that great a problem. You are sacrificing this life, but you're getting another one in return, and in fact you're doing a good thing, so you're moving in the right direction as you're doing it. So, the single-minded focus of monotheism with the spiritual sort of comfort of believing in reincarnation, if you literally do believe in it. I mean, if you don't believe, then it's not going to do any good. But for the people who genuinely do believe in it, makes for a very effective sort of warrior class. The other things that are associated with these things are a series of what are referred to usually as marks. A set of 5 things, they're not all objects, but 5 marks that are supposed to set aside these men specifically that are within the community and have set themselves apart as these lions, these Singh. The first of this is long hair. They wear long hair, and it's usually worn under a turban. The turban itself is not one of the marks of being a Singh, but the long hair is. The second is a comb, usually a wooden comb that's used to hold that hair in place. And the hair, by the way, is supposed to kind of mimic the idea of a lion's mane, right? The mane of a lion. And the comb is supposed to be a symbol of kind of composure, of keeping yourself proper, of keeping yourself composed, even when you're doing these things like protecting someone or risking your life and so forth. The third mark is a steel bracelet, a steel or iron bracelet, and that's just a simple ring of metal, and that's supposed to signify strength and endurance. The fourth is basically shorts, short pants that you wear under whatever clothing you're wearing, and it's a symbol of modesty, that you're maintaining your modesty and composure again when fighting or in any other circumstance. And then the fifth mark is a dagger, or some people call it a sword, but it's a fairly short blade that these Singh men are supposed to carry. And this creates a very formalized, sort of easily identifiable visual cue for when someone is part of this group. Alright, that's where we'll leave it for video number 2. I will pick up with this in video number 3, and we'll talk a little bit about the last 150 years or so for Sikhism and how things have played out. See you in video 3.